You will never forget what is going on in the world when you think about when your child is born. You will know for the rest of this child's life, you were born during a weird time. And then, how do you say the name?
Well,
is it a placeholder?
First of all, my partner is the one that actually mostly came up with the name.
Congratulations to her.
Yeah, she's great at names. So, I mean, it's just X, the letter X, and then the AE is like pronounced Ash. Yeah, and then A12 is my contribution.
Oh, why A12?
Archangel 12, the precursor to the SR-71, coolest plane ever. Actually, I think it's better being older and having a kid. Just hours before the demo, both Franz, is a head of design, and I were in the studio throwing steel balls at the window and just bouncing right off. I'm like, okay, this seems pretty good. Seems like we got it. Okay. And then we think what happened was that when Franz hit the door with the sledgehammer, so like this is like exoskeleton, high strength hardened steel. You can literally wind up with a sledgehammer, full on double handed sledgehammer, and hit the door, and there's not even a dent. It's cool. But we think that cracked the corner of the glass at the bottom. And then once you crack the corner of the glass, then it's game over. So then when you threw the ball, that's what cracked the glass.
So in hindsight,
it didn't go through, though.
It didn't go through. That's true. That's true. It didn't shatter the whole thing like a regular window would either, which would just dissolve, right? So in hindsight, the ball should have been first, sledgehammer second.
Yeah.
You live, you learn.
Yeah, exactly. Let's clear up the data. So, like I said, just make sure we record it as COVID only if it is somebody has been tested, has received a positive COVID test, not if they simply have symptoms, one of like 100 symptoms. And then if it is a COVID death, it must be separated. Was COVID a primary reason for death, or did they also have stage 3 cancer, heart disease, emphysema, and got hit by a bus and had COVID?
Yeah, I've read all this stuff about them diagnosing people as a COVID death despite other variables.
This is not a question. This is what is occurring.
And where are you reading this from? Where are you getting this from?
The public health officials have literally said this. This is not a question mark. So that's it's a bit concerning.
Mind viral immunity, meaning that once something like Neuralink gets established, the real concern is something that, you said it's Bluetooth, right? Or some future version of that. That the idea is that something could possibly get into it, fuck it up.
No, I'm talking about like there's some cockeyed concept that that happens right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know there's viruses and embedded chips, right? Like they've embedded chips and then acquired viruses.
Well, when I'm talking about a mind virus, I'm talking about like a concept that infects people's minds.
Oh, okay. Like cult thinking or some sort of fundamentalism.
Yeah, just a wrong-headed idea that
just
goes viral in an idea sense.
The exercise is like you want to develop strength and conditioning just so that you could be better at doing the thing.
Sure.
And the analogy that I use is like if you had a race car and you could actually give the race car better handling and more horsepower just from your own focus and effort.
Sure. Yes. Seems like a good This COVID thing's kind of thrown us for a loop. I mean, the things we've got to get done ahead of Roadster are, ramping up Model Y production. Roadster's kind of like dessert. So, like, we got to get the, meat and potatoes and greens and stuff, But
Roadster comes before Cybertruck.
Some of the things for Roadster, they're the tri-motor plaid powertrain. We're going to have that in Model S. Then if somebody has more stuff than somebody else, it's because they took more from this magic horn of plenty. Now let me just break it to you, the fools out there. if you don't make stuff, there's no stuff. Yeah. So if you don't make the food, if you don't process the food, you don't transport the food, and whether medical treatment, getting your teeth fixed, there's no stuff. I would become detached from reality. You can't just legislate money and solve these things. If you don't make stuff, there is no stuff. Obviously, we'll run out of the stores. We'll run out of the the machine just grinds to a halt. I mean, actually, if this, I think a lesson to be taken here that I think is quite important is that if you have grandparents and their age of grandparents, really be careful with any kind of flu or cold or something that is not dangerous to kids or young adults, but is dangerous to the elderly. Is basically if your kid's got a runny nose, they should stay away from their grandparents. It's the things that are where a young immune system has no problem and an older one has a problem.
Yes.
And so if you can solve the data rate issue and especially output but input too, then you can improve the symbiosis that is already occurring between man and machine.
We used to joke around about that. I've joked around about that a million times on this podcast, that one day in the future there's going to come a time where you can read each other's minds.
Yeah.
And
it's like, feels like something's really, really missing. So when you, what happens when let's say you've got some complex idea that you're trying to convey to somebody else. Well, your brain spends a lot of effort compressing a complex concept into words. And then you say those words are then interpreted, then they're decompressed by the person who is listening, and they will at best get a very incomplete understanding of what you're trying to convey. If a company is making compelling products and services, it should get more capital. I mean, I think it's really, I do think in the United States especially, there's an overallocation of talent in finance and law. Basically, too many smart people go into finance. We should have, I think, fewer people doing law and fewer people doing finance and more people making stuff. And manufacturing used to be highly valued in the United States.
Well, I think that people are kind of learning that, particularly because of this whole pandemic and this relationship that we have with China, that there's a lot of value into making things here. So you can improve it in when you said you won't have to talk to each other anymore.
Well,
you'll be able to interface with each other in some sort of a non-verbal, non-physical way where you will transfer data back and forth to each other without having to actually use your mouth.
Yeah.
It's if you taught a child from first grade on how to use some new universal language, I mean, essentially like a Rosetta Stone, and something that's done that interprets your thoughts, and you can convey your thoughts with no room for interpretation, with very clear, where you know what a person's saying, and you can tell them what you're saying.
Yeah, I think you would, in principle, be able to communicate very quickly and with far more precision ideas. You want to speak a different language, no problem.
Right.
We'll just download the program.
Whew. Yeah, you can hear it, and it'll play things back to you in whatever language you choose for the first few iterations.
Well, the first few iterations are, I mean, what I'm talking about is like in the limit over time, with a lot of development. If the development continues to accelerate, then maybe like 5 years, 5 to 10 years.
That's quick. That's really quick.
That's the case scenario. But 10 years more like it.
We have this gigantic head. We can talk without words.
save state, like save your brain state, like a saved game in a video game.
Well,
just like it's a movie.
Crystal clear.
Including the entire sensory experience.
Emotions.
Everything.
Everything.
Everything. And play it back.
Edit it. So you can change your past? So what exactly is it?
Well, for version 1 of the device, it would be basically implanted in your skull. So it could be something that helps cure, say, eyesight, like returns your eyesight, even if you've like lost your optic nerve type of thing. You could then create a sort of a neural shunt that restores somebody who's a quadriplegic to full functionality.
Oh yeah, I believe you.
And that has a battery and a Bluetooth and a inductive charger.
So through this 1-inch diameter device, electrodes be inserted, and they will find their way.
I mean, they usually go in depending on where it is, 2 or 3 millimeters. And then when you get old, you tend to, if you get Alzheimer's or something like that, then you lose memory, and this could help you with, restoring your memory, that kind of thing.